I'm Ann Fortescue, Executive Director at IMUS, the International Museum of Art and Science in McAllen, Texas. And joining me today are two of our collaborators and partners, Colleen Curran-Hook, the Executive Director of Quinta Mazatlan, and we'll learn a little bit more about Quinta in our conversation, and artist Jessica Monroe, who spends a lot of time in nature. We are so fortunate to have received a Texas Commission on the Arts Cultural District grant, and the purpose of the grant is to bring awareness and promote McAllen's cultural district. And we know that Quinta Mazatlan is part of that cultural district. So Quinta is located in one of McAllen's busiest neighborhoods, and it is just this wonderful oasis of nature and peacefulness. And so I wonder, as we talk, if you can share some of your insights about Quinta's role in connecting people with nature and also art. So Jessica, I know you recently approached Colleen about being Quinta's artist in residence, and I'd love to know a little bit more about what motivated you to do that.
Well, Colleen and I have been working together for many years, probably a decade at this point. And there's a lot of overlap between what I do and what Quinta does, as far as just connecting people with not just nature in general, but specifically our local wildlife. And they do such an amazing job as far as outreach and really making this important knowledge accessible in a very joyful and fun way. And so I was going through a period of transition and knew that I needed multiple therapies to get me through this process. And fortunately, as a nature artist, both nature and art can be very therapeutic. And so this was work that I knew I could do on my own, because this is what I do. However, if there was an external commitment, I knew I'd actually show up instead of letting life take over, because there always seems to be something more pressing for your time than actually kind of carving out this time to connect with nature, which is so important, I think, for our health and the health of our environment. I also, a big part of this particular program we're doing this year is I decided if I have this need, other people also have this need. And so unlike most residencies, which are focused on the artist, they might have one component of outreach. In the proposal I sent to Colleen, it was, let's open my process of using art to connect with the environment to whoever might want to join us, and kind of see how this changes over the course of an entire year. So instead of just kind of periodically going to these outdoor spaces, what happens if I show up once a month to the same space and really take note of how it changes over time? How I changed over the course of this year, and then also this sort of community that is being built along the way, and how they're changing and interacting. And we're halfway through, and it's been really amazing so far.
Well, it sounds restorative.
Yeah.
And it also is just such a perfect example of how an organization dedicated to the natural environment finds ways to reach people on multiple channels. Colleen, I know Quinta has, well, actually, you have shovels in the ground and construction equipment. Quinta is building the Center for Urban Ecology, which of course will be a mecca for people studying sort of how you maintain and nurture a green environment in the midst of, a bustling metropolis. Can you share a little bit about how Quinta has always embraced the arts and how you see the Center for Urban Ecology kind of continuing those efforts?
Art has the power, obviously, to connect people to nature, like you just said. You said our mission statement. Our goal is to get people outdoors and enjoy nature, whether it be through art, photography, poetry, birding, gardening. There's so many different ways to connect to nature. We were honored that Jessica chose Quinta Mazatlan for her residency because she works outside. And she doesn't call it a class. I think meditative art, whatever, but so it's not outside how to use your artistic tools. It's outside on how to look at nature, connect to nature, and then put it on your canvas. And it's not art through her eyes. She wants people to see it through their eyes, how they're connecting. Although Jessica's art is amazing and it inspires, she paints on a very large scale, but it's very elegant and enchanting. So it's beautiful in home. So if you have a piece like that in your home, you know, you're going, oh my gosh, the Rio Grande Valley flora and fauna is just gorgeous. It's amazing. Jessica also knows the name of every plant, and that's part of your stewardship walk. What am I painting? She painted the branches of a mesquite reaching out. And when I saw the painting, now every time I walk by that tree, I have to stop and admire it more. It's not just one of a bunch of mesquite trees in the thorn forest. It has its unique own personality. So again, art has the power to educate people, and we hope that education leads to an action. Our case, we work very closely with environmental education, and so this is eco art. We have a nature store that our goal is to highlight our local artists, and so we hope that Quinta Mazatlan serves as their home, their platform to showcase their work, and if possible, sell their work as well. It's very important to promote the business of art.
Yeah. Well, the Texas Commission on the Arts actually recognizes that in cultural districts, arts and creative entrepreneurs infuse community with energy and innovation, and to your point, Colleen, action.
Yeah.
So kind of for both of you, why do you believe having a robust arts and culture scene in McAllen is important?
So everything about having a cultural district enriches your neighborhood, and it creates roots for people, and we want people to stay. We want our young to come back or go to college here locally, and grow a family and grow a business. So arts plays that role. It also brings awareness in terms of how they can be involved, whether it be, in our case, it's improving the environment, but there's so many causes that artists help to promote and bring awareness to.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think a lot of kind of modern culture is homogenous. You know, you go to a Target here, it's just like a Target anywhere else. The same with the fast food industries, and art has the ability to be specific to place. And when you reflect the local identity, I think there's a lot of power in that, and there's a lot of strength in that. And like you said, Colleen, it becomes, instead of just one of many mesquite, it's a specific mesquite with its own personality. Yeah. There's an appreciation for that. I've had somebody send me, this was a long time ago, somebody I don't really know, but through social media sent me a picture of these tangled grasses. And he said, I was on a hunting trip and I saw this and it reminded me of your painting. And I thought, that's a recognition.
And slowing down, taking the time.
Yeah. And appreciating. You know, I think that's the power that art has to do, whether it's nature or culture, is to say, hey, we're not just this faceless like everybody else. There's a uniqueness to this. And I think when that's reflected through art, there's a joy, there's a strength, there's a sense of place. And when we have a sense of place, we are more apt to have action because we want to protect it. Right? We want to take care of it. We want to love it. We want to, if we know about the native plants and we celebrate them and we see the beauty, and then we're more likely to plant them in our yards and support the local wildlife too.
So I know a lot of art practice does occur kind of in the studio.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued, and I think others are, when an artist leaves the studio and kind of engages with the outside world. Yeah. So what is it about that kind of external engagement that enriches your work? And I know you've touched on this a little bit here and there, but just kind of add a little bit to what you've said about why going out of the studio is maybe as important as the studio work.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're very different practices. What I do in the studio are these large-scale, highly detailed finished products that then go into people's homes or spaces. What happens outdoors, the practice I do outdoors, which is what I share at Quinta, is a meditation practice, which means very different from the studio. In the studio, really care about the outcome, right? And having it be at a professional level. Outdoors, I actively let go of all that. And I work with people to let go of all that. Because when we're concerned about the outcome and wanting it to be, to have a certain outcome, to be able to put it up in our house, or, I work to have a practice where I'm not trying to take anything from the environment, right? I feel like that's really the source of a lot of our problems in our relationship with the natural world. I go into these spaces with a lot of respect and using my art to respond to the space. So I can't worry about what it's gonna look like. I engage fully with what does this space have to teach me? What's really exciting that's happening here? And then the marks respond to the movement, the energy, the life, right? It's very much approaching the space as sacred, as, it's the process of being in the moment. And that is what informs the studio practice. If I don't do that, if I just go out and take, photos or try to take from it, the foundation and the philosophy of the work that I do would be completely different.
Right. Well, I use the word enchanting, and it's because you are studying nature and you do understand the importance in the circle of life. One of my favorite pieces of Jessica's is, she just calls it the nest. But it is one of your larger pieces, right? Mm-hmm. But the detail of the nest with the feathers and the branches, and I mean, it's just amazing. You just stand and study all the pieces that this bird architect went to make this nest. I mean, it's just brilliant.
Well, cultural districts really are special zones that harness the power of cultural resources to stimulate economic development and community vitality, which you've both touched upon. These districts really can become focal points for fostering civic pride, and statewide cultural districts have attracted tourists and really instilled a lot of local pride, which I know people really have for Quinta Mazatlan. Mm-hmm. It's really, it's one of the kind of signature pieces in not just the city's fabric, but the region's fabric. And I wonder, Colleen, if you could just talk a little bit about how you see Quinta boosting the sort of economic vitality of McAllen, the cultural district, and the region, and then touch upon ways that you envision the Center for Urban Ecology doing that, because I know that that the work that the center will do at Quinta will go really deep into the science side. And I think we've just, in our conversation, we've talked a lot about how the sort of the power of art to really enable us to look deeply and closely. And that's certainly something scientists do, but they often do it from a very data-centric and maybe a little bit more rigid method. So if you'll share kind of some of your vision for how Quinta's gonna sort of keep us all connected.
I feel Quinta Mazatlan is cherished locally, but this cultural district designation and focus will help it grow on an international level. That helps Quinta Mazatlan, that helps IMAS, that helps the Performing Arts Center, that helps the Convention Center, that helps the artists, that helps every business, not only in McAllen, but in the entire Rio Grande Valley. So a focus on a cultural district brings talent, highlights talent we have, brings income. We are very focused on ecotourism, which is also art tourism. People that come to our region to see beauty and flora and fauna and our natural and cultural history, see nowhere else, in the United States. So the cultural district designation, I think, is important for every business. Quinta Mazatlan, from the very beginning, we needed to come up with a mission statement. And it was a mansion with a mission, because in the middle of a forest there's this adobe mansion. A mansion with a mission, working to restore one native backyard at a time. We feel everyone deserves a home and a habitat. We feel every school deserves a tiny forest. We feel every home, again, whether it's a patio or a mini backyard or a neighborhood park, should have nature as part of their gift of life. And so artists help tell that story. On Thursday nights at Quinta Mazatlan, it's sort of an open forum, artists, speakers, musicians, and just recently we had the talented Seal family. Jan Seal is a Texas Poet Laureate, and her son Aaron Seal is a photographer, graphic designer, historian. I could just keep on going. But they just came up with another book. I think they have 10, and it's called Border Biome. And it highlights their love of the natural and cultural history of the Rio Grande Valley. So Quinta Mazatlan served as their home for their book opening and their book signing, and then the Nature Gift Store allows them to sell that book so others can read it. So that is our hope, that Quinta Mazatlan continues to serve as a home for the artists, and they tell their story, which is the story of the natural and cultural history of the Rio Grande Valley.
Wow. Well, you said it beautifully, and thank you so much for mentioning the adobe house, because I think that's another important aspect that many cultural districts have, and certainly the Texas Commission on the Arts Cultural District program wants to encourage cultural preservation and historic preservation, as you've both so eloquently commented on that as a role of community identity and pride and economy as well.
Well, we're grateful for IMAS lending us Ann Moore's folk art collection. We have a room at Quinta Mazatlan. It features 1,400 of her pieces. And if that's her mini collection, I can just imagine what you have at the library. And that does tell about our cultural history and our roots to Mexico. And that's all so very important. I think our natural and cultural history is just one.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it's definitely intertwined. And I think that's like the perfect ending for our conversation, in terms of bringing the two of you together to kind of untwine it and then twine it back up. So Colleen, Jessica, thank you so much for your collaboration and participation, and just the the really good work that you're both doing.
Thank you for the partnership.
Thank you.